Fetty Sick just released a raw prison track. And while what he said got everyone talking, what really caught my attention was what he didn't say directly, because Fetty, who has been in prison since 2022, is sending messages behind bars. And when you put them together with what happened to Tory Lanez's man, starts to look like foul play might have been involved, like straight-up industry sabotage. I'm not the only one watching that. Fetty, who just made his first official move in years, dropped a new song from prison. And it sounds like he's reaching for more than just freedom. He's attempting to get a presidential pardon by Christmas, which is a bold move. However, what really stands out is the timing, as Fett is trying to rebuild his reputation from the inside out. Tory Lanez was stabbed 14 times in prison by a convicted felon. I got everything: the unspoken beefs, the court cover-ups, the coded industry warnings, the raw prison politics, and what Fetty said in his XXL prison interview about what actually happened with Tory, and the mysterious silence from the industry elites who seemed so loud when he was found guilty. Fetty recently released his first song in 3 years. And while it is amazing, the message is what really left people in awe. In the lyrics, he makes references to redemption, second chances, and being free by Christmas 2025, which is consistent with rumors that his legal team is actively seeking a presidential pardon. Don't get it wrong, this isn't a publicity stunt. In May 2023, Fetty entered a guilty plea to conspiracy to distribute more than 500 grams of cocaine. And that's not even the whole tale. He was sentenced to 6 years in jail in this federal case. The FBI didn't only pick him up on suspicion. When they picked him up in October 2021, shortly before he was set to perform at Rolling Loud, New York, they also discovered 16 kilograms of heroin, 2 kilograms of heroin, firearms, and more than $1.5 million in cash. These were significant accusations at the kingpin level. The federal government even claimed that it was a multi-state ring that had been active since 2019 and was based in Long Island and New Jersey. His chances of leniency were extremely slim after his bond was revoked in 2022, for allegedly threatening someone on FaceTime by calling him a rat and brandishing a gun. However, he is currently in prison, reflecting, accepting responsibility, and aiming higher. He stated, "I take accountability for everything I did. I don't blame anybody. I'm just grateful. I could have pursued music more seriously instead of going this path, and I'm still here." Fetty is obviously coming to terms with his past, and he mentioned in that same interview that he's learning from people who have been there for 30, 50, 50, or even 120 years that have shaken him. He's now moving on, keeping his circle close, cutting off snakes, and talking about how the industry wasn't made for black artists without label support. Fetty was already losing money, going through a divorce, and getting robbed by his tour manager. I'll say that perhaps he only got involved in the drug trade to support his family. This is where things start to get really interesting. Tory Lanez was going through his most trying moment. And just as his team presented fresh proof that he hadn't shot Megan, he was stabbed 14 times. Was that a coincidence, or was it a hit story? Lanez, whose real name is Dare Peterson, was found guilty of shooting Megan Thee Stallion and is presently serving a 10-year sentence. However, as you have all been aware, the case was suspect from the beginning. And now, suddenly, inside the California Correctional Institution in Tehachapi, Tory is stabbed 14 times by the suspected attacker, 42-year-old Santino Casio, who has a history of attempted and 2 prior deadly weapon assaults while incarcerated. We know that Casio has been in prison since 2004 and has a history of stabbing people. Tory has also been in prison for more than 2 years without having any previous criminal records, so why is he suddenly doing this?
Over 2 years in prison, after over 2 years in prison without incident, Tory was stabbed 14 times just days after a major national news outlet reached out to Megan Pete's team, Kelsey Harris, and former DA George Gascon about a story on new evidence in this case.
You all already know what I believe he was the target. Take a look at a few weeks before the stabbing. In court, Tory's side provided further proof that he wasn't the shooter and that Kelsey Harris, in fact, ex best pal, discharged the weapon.
They said DNA analysis showed that there was a 0.01% chance that Tory touched the actual gun itself.
There were 3 potential suspects in the car that night, and yet the only DNA sample was taken of Mr. Peterson, even though unknown DNA was found on the gun. Why wasn't Miss Harris's DNA taken?
There were 3 possible suspects in the car that night, but only Tory Lanez's DNA was tested. In addition, Tory Lanez assisted in overturning a case for an inmate facing 4 life sentences through the Hands of God project with Unite the People. Even though unknown DNA was discovered on the gun, why wasn't Miss Harris' DNA taken as well?
My name is Ladaro Penix II, and I want to sincerely thank Unite the People, Tory Lanez, and the Hands of God project for helping me receive a reversal in my case. I was sentenced to 4 life sentences plus 74 years.
So now ask yourself, why would a dude...
Now ask yourself why a man like Casio, who never gets out, would risk everything to go after Tory Lanez. Unless someone put a battery in his back, he wouldn't. This is where things get dark. After Tory was stabbed, you noticed something strange. The entire industry went silent. Major artists didn't make any statements. And the same celebrities who yelled to protect Black women when the Meghan story broke didn't offer any support. If you listen carefully, though, the silence speaks loudly. In 2021, Tory Lanez was more than simply a controversial musician. He was revolutionizing the industry. With no label participation, Tory made $1 million and sold 1 million copies of her NFT CD in less than a minute, selling NFT albums for $1 each without the use of an intermediary or a label cut. Tory Lanez made $1 million in 57 seconds.
Y'all don't understand? I just cracked this. I just cracked this whole. It's cracked. It's over. I cracked the whole. It's over. It's over. No more middleman. All y'all artists out there.
Even now, when people like 50 Cent and Aiden Ross are calling out the lies, the industry continues to act as though Tory doesn't exist. You think the labels were cool with that? Nah. Tory cracked the code, and the executives took that personally. As a result, when the Meghan situation blew off the machine, they didn't waste time backing me and pushing narratives to portray Tory as the villain before the trial even started.
She said, were you intimate with Tory Lanez? And she said, what? And then it was like, no. And I was like, she's lying.
It don't matter. She got caught stepping on glass in her body cam they just found. Tory had no evidence on that.
Yeah.
Tory didn't do it, I promise you.
Either way, I like him.
Good.
And his music, so.
Good. It's free Tory's.
Afterward, there is Rock Nation. Since they began managing Mean, Tory Lanez's name has been associated with ROC Nation. Some insiders believe that they blackballed Tory behind the scenes, manipulated the media, and used their influence to force him out. I'm not saying that Jay-Z ordered anything, but Tory and Chris Brown were all once on the wrong side of rock. For example, 5 months ago, Tory and DDG released a song criticizing them, and shortly after Tory is stabbed, DDG is accused of domestic abuse without any supporting evidence. See the pattern? And let's move on to the petition. More than 100,000 people signed a petition asking Governor Gavin Newsom to pardon Tory when it was discovered that there was no residue, no fingerprints, and no DNA connecting him to the pistol.
No fingerprints, missing bullet fragments.
Even a nonprofit legal organization called Unite the People is supporting Tory and calling for the case to be reopened.
Mr. Peterson did not shoot Miss Pete, did not shoot at Miss Pete, or did not assault Miss Pete. It's just another irregularity in a list of irregularities.
His attorneys say Kelsey Megan's ex-best friend shot the gun, not Tory. And her bodyguard even acknowledged that she admitted to the shooting, but for some reason, none of that made the news. If Fetty _ another artist who is blackballed, after his peak is seeing all of From Within and demanding change, then perhaps this whole problem is greater than both of them now. If we are going to be honest, ask yourself why this whole thing feels like a setup. From the mention of a presidential pardon to the sudden energy of Fetty Wap's return, his prison drop wasn't just a flex. It was a coded message. Fetty was in federal prison for a serious trafficking charge, so he saw the prison system firsthand and knows what political silence feels like. The fact that he's speaking up now, just as Tory is being silenced, isn't a coincidence. Let's zoom out. Fetty _ and Tory Lanez have a few things in common. They both experienced quick mainstream success and fallout from the same system that once praised them. Both of their cases center on timing. In Fetty's case, you can clearly paint a picture of how the pandemic dried up his income. He was robbed by his own people, and the industry turned its back on him, forcing him into desperation. In Tory's case, he lost his deals, was unable to see his child, and the media crucified him before a trial even began. Tory Loki said the same thing after his conviction, that he trusted the wrong people and that he believed clout could buy loyalty. Man, let's not forget that these are not two isolated incidents. Both of these men discovered too late that the music business lacks heart. They serve as illustrations of what occurs when black males in music attempt to take control of their careers and pull the strings. It's no longer about guilt or innocence after Tory revealed the flaws in Megan's story and was stabbed. It's about control. If Fetty Wap's prison call is any indication, it serves as a final warning to other artists that if you don't play the game their way, you get erased. The way fans are responding to all of this indicates that over 100,000 signatures calling for Tory's release in less than a day is not just a gesture of support. It's a movement. Free Fetty on all platforms. The larger picture is now more important than simply two rappers, while large blogs overlook the stabbing of X. Social media is where the truth breaks through the clamor of the mainstream. Videos, discussions, and conspiracies went viral on Instagram and YouTube. Influencers even came forward to confirm what many people had previously guessed.
Nigga.
Now I ain't gonna lie, bro. He got
like,
hit, bro. I ain't gonna lie, bro. Tory cool.
14 times, bro. To that, like they were trying to, that he was trying to kill him. But I'm saying, why else would he be trying to kill him? Other than like, you know, somebody put that order in.
What is actually happening here, according to some? In Tory's case, a guy who managed to prevail without them was silenced. The larger goal of Fetty's case appears to be to keep artists reliant on the machine. You deviate from the norm, you legally, financially, and occasionally physically. Now fans are demanding answers. Why did Kelsey Harris enter the fifth plea before even being put on trial? Why did Megan's supporters advocate for a closed-door case while the public was spoon-fed one side? Why didn't the prosecution test everyone's DNA? The same is true for Fetty. Even after New York State passed a law restricting that, his prosecutors literally used his lyrics against him, calling his older songs evidence of glamorizing the trade before he had been arrested. This is not justice. Rather, it is agenda-driven. But even in prison, both of these men continue to move Fetty's, sending bars. According to Tory's father, his son is still battling for his freedom, and his condition has improved since the stabbing.
Quote, "Dad, I thought it was my last. And having made my peace with God, I said, okay, God, is this how it's supposed to end for me?" God said no. God told him.
The establishment is attempting to use these two as examples. But the fans aren't leaving, and the more they try to quiet them, the more people are free. This is spiritual warfare, you know. Tory Lanez is free. Let's start with Fetty Wap. His legal team is reportedly working quietly behind the scenes to develop a case for a presidential pardon. as Trump is back in office and has a history of awarding unexpected clemencies to well-known individuals like Lil Wayne and Kodak Black. The door may be open for Fetty, but this isn't just about politics or public relations. He is demonstrating genuine growth, regret, accountability, and a revitalized interest in music. He isn't pleading for pity. Rather, his recent interview in XXL made that very evident. Meanwhile, Tory Lanez's attorneys are not giving up and are actively working to reopen his case. With the wealth of new evidence, the public is right there with them, denouncing the trial's poor handling and urging Governor Gavin Newsom to act quickly. The petition is still receiving thousands of signatures every day, and those who previously doubted Tory are now joining the battle. But let's face it, this is about much more than just Fetty and Tory. This is a time of cultural change. An obvious indication that fans are fed up with biased stories and the covert goals of the music business in the absence of gatekeepers. Independent artists are succeeding. The people who are listening are beginning to hear the truth. And we might be on the verge of something more significant: a judicial rebuke for the way black males are handled in high-profile trials. A redefining of how artists take charge of their careers. And perhaps even the first steps toward actual accountability for the structures that attempted to bury them. The fans are louder than ever, and Tory Lanez is mending Fetty_. This is just the beginning. Don't let this story finish. Press the like button. For more in-depth explorations of the facts they don't want you to know, leave a comment with your ideas and subscribe.